Welcome to Speaking Highly with Jon Huck. I am Jon Huck. With me until he decides to get a job, Indy Fawcett. How are you, buddy?
I'm well. I am currently employed.
I know. I thought as soon as I said that, I was like, that's mean. First of all, mean. Like, if you weren't working right now, it'd be like, hey, Dick, why?
I'm actually so blessed that I get to do my job from home and do this and pull my hair out doing podcasts.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're blessed, dude. It's definitely blessed.
But yes, it's good to be podcasting again, for sure.
Nah, I'm glad you're with us. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad whoever's watching and listening is here, guys.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button, y'all.
Oh,
we need you more than ever, really, because we're at the beginning. We need them viewers. You know,
should I be saying that? Like, I can't bring myself to say smash that like button. I can't.
No, it's just like literally I forget to do it. So whenever I hear somebody say it, I click like or I'll subscribe. So you don't have to be like
annoying
hey,
that it works.
Hey everybody out here fucking, making videos, subscribe. It's just like, hey guys, just remember this train doesn't move without you. Like that kind of thing, and go like, we're grassroots. We only have a few hundred subscribers. Like any added subscribers and listenership.
Helps.
Or also say this too. Tell a friend about the show if you like it. So you just say subscribe if you like it, like the video, and if you know anybody who likes this, share it.
Yeah.
So we can do that. So go ahead.
Yeah. So don't forget to do all the things Indy just said.
Like, subscribe, tell a friend, y'all. This is Speaking Highly with Jon Huck.
Smash buttons.
The hit new sensation of 2021.
The hit new sensation. Yeah, that's what it is. Today, guys, I was thinking about doing a whole episode on music festivals, and then that seemed too broad for me, and I narrowed it down. I narrowed it down to sort of one music festival, but music festivals, everybody knows about them. Everyone knows what they are. They're super common today because they make money. Early music festivals that you would have heard of, they were put on, like, if you think about Monterey Pop was like one of the first kind of big 1967 was like, let's put all these bands in one thing. Now, I consider a festival something that is yearly. It's annually. It happens every year. But Monterey Pop was a one-off. They did this festival. Everybody lost their shirts financially. The band, nobody made any money. And for back then, no one really cared because 2 years later, they did Woodstock. And Woodstock, people crashed, right? Not a lot of money.
Like, I just had to Google Monterey Pop. You don't have to Google Woodstock.
No, that's
Woodstock.
True. You know Woodstock, and it's famous
unless
because
you're like
people
13.
Even then, I gotta.
Even then, maybe, definitely.
Yeah, dude. But there's just people flock to Woodstock. They didn't pay to get in. Nobody really made any money. But the people who are in charge of the music industry, the people who, usually the gatekeepers are the people who can't and who don't really understand what's going on. But it was like. They saw Woodstock, and then I think that's when things changed. It was like, oh, if we charged all these people, if they each paid $10 a head, you know what I mean? It became, if we had advertisers, if we had people giving money.
It became Coachellafied, right? Like,
dude,
nowadays where it's like, it's all the people who wouldn't have gone pre all this commercialism, but now go because it's an opportunity to roll balls.
And, in 2016, Coachella made $94.2 million. Jeez. And that is when they stopped. They haven't toured Coachella. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Lollapalooza. Coachella is one space every year. $94.2 million. I mean, you've gone from Woodstock, where everyone walks in for free, to this festival made $94.2 million 5 years ago or whatever,
it's like a license to print money rather than like, and like the lineups are good and all. It's just like, and it's all pop though. It's known like the culture moving forward of culture in a like back then, like with Woodstock, it's like it was a cultural movement that
Yeah.
just was a snapshot in time. You know,
I think Lollapalooza was like that when it first started, meaning being a cultural movement. It was it highlighted multiple bands from different genres, you know,
Right.
and it kind of, you know, you'd get the hip hop stage and you'd get the rock and roll. Like I went to only one Lollapalooza, 1992.
Oh.
So
I
it
was
a year
negative
before.
one.
Yeah, fuck off. Yeah, I remember thinking, man, I can't wait till Indy's born. He's really gonna like music.
Can't wait till 27 years after this to talk about it on a podcast.
92 went to Lollapalooza 2 was the second one they had. So the headliner was Red Hot Chili Peppers. I saw Ice Cube. I saw Pearl Jam play during the day, and then Ministry played right before the Chili Peppers. And Ministry was, that's probably the last massive mosh pit I ever went into.
Yeah.
And I'm done now for moshing. But it was just a fascinating. I mean, that was my first real music festival. I had seen Clash of the Titans, which was like a Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer concert tour.
God.
But that wasn't a yearly thing. They did one tour, you know.
Right.
So yes, it was technically a festival, but no, it wasn't, because with I think with a music festival, there's also other things going on. You know, there's bands, and then there's like the Jim Rose Freak Show or whatever it was. You know,
Right.
There's always kind of little side stages. But like Lollapalooza was my first real festival, and it was fascinating in the sense that just that many people from that many different backgrounds with different tastes and different sort of styles of music all getting together. I mean,
Right.
it was very inspirational, and it was also, there's fights and weird, crazy shit and people drinking too much and, you know, whatever. But that was my first festival. When was your first concert? What was your first
My
concert?
first concert was 1999 at SDSU, and I saw Weird Al Yankovic, fifth row.
Dude.
I was 7 years old.
That
I
is
loved Weird Al. And
dude,
still do.
First of all, if you don't like Weird Al, you are so fucking dead inside. Dude, that is a great first concert.
Oh my
you know?
gosh, it was great. You know, it was right around the Fat era. He had the huge bubble suit, and he changed costumes every song. Came into the audience, and also interesting story too. I ran into him at a church I went to. A couple years back, my ex brought me to a church. You know, we just wanted to go, and it was in Hollywood, and we're sitting in the back pew, and a minute before the service starts, Weird Al just comes in and sits in the back pew and sits there the entire time and just quietly leaves at the end. And I'm like, we're in church with Weird Al. Also, how well-rounded of a guy is that, too? It's just, like, that's awesome.
When you examine Weird Al's career,
Yeah.
he's produced music. He's, you know what I mean? He's a multi-talented guy.
Yeah.
We are going to do a whole show on him.
Oh, please do.
Because I'm a massive fan. I got to do a commercial with him.
Really? Holy
Yeah. Radio Shack, right before they went full Chapter 11, made one last push to try to get people to buy their products. And Weird Al was kind of a fan of Radio Shack and some of the gadgets they had, so they got him. And I played this guy, no lines, creepy uncle. I just wave at the camera. I'm there for, you know, I'm on set for an hour maybe.
Yeah.
But because I told the director how much of a fan I was, he was like, dude, go bring some stuff for him to sign.
That's awesome.
I went out that night, bought the first 5 records he ever made, which are my favorite.
Of course.
And he signed every one. And I gave them to my brother-in-law, my brother, and my wife and myself, because we're all massive fans.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was the nicest guy. I told him I had a Weird Al joke where I talk about seeing Weird Al at the Improv and then going to call my brother to tell him, because he's also a Weird Al fan.
Yeah.
But my brother's an idiot, so my brother doesn't really think before he speaks. So I'm like, hey man, you should get down here. Weird Al is here. To which he responds with, huh? Yankovic or Pacino? And it's just, I told him that joke and he was like, oh, that's funny.
Hey-o.
But sorry, we'll move on from Weird Al. But that's an amazing first concert, dude.
It was, yeah.
My first concert was Metallica and the Cult in 1989.
Hell yeah.
The And Justice for All tour. But it set the stage for me. Live music became something that I was immediately addicted to.
Me too.
I mean, I've seen so many Grateful Dead shows, seen Slayer, every band I ever liked, for the most part, I've been able to see. Unless they were like, I never got to see Queen. I never got to see Led Zeppelin. I never got to see, but even the Who I've seen. It's like,
right.
I mean, not the full band, but you get it.
Right.
But so music in general has always been a massive thing. And the festival thing has just been entertaining, I mean, the quick kind of history, like Newport Jazz Festival has been running since 1954. You know what I mean? The Newport Folk Fest since 1959. And then you get into stuff like the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. And then I guess I didn't realize this Summerfest in Milwaukee, which is a massive festival, started in 1968. I had no idea. And if you're not familiar with Summerfest, look it up. It's some fascinating. They've had some great bands. In 1999, I saw Bob Dylan and Paul Simon at Summerfest.
Oh my gosh.
It was wild, dude. I took 3 shits in 5 different porta potties. It was fucking crazy. But then, like we said, Woodstock changed everything. And then people, I mean, it's hard. You argue that after Woodstock, when you bring in money, you bring in suits, you bring in corporations, and shit just goes down the tubes. But you can still get good music out of these things. It's just becoming harder. But what happened was in 1970, early 1970, 71, 72, 73, Bill Graham, concert promoter, he was the word is impresario. He was a guy who like dealt with productions, like Broadway type plays. That's his background. And then he starts he's from the San Francisco, the Bay Area, right? The 60s, Grateful Dead come up, 1964, 65. They start getting massive stage time through Bill Graham's venues, Winterland Ballroom, the Fillmore. So Bill Graham has now become this professional concert promoter. And he's like, Bill Graham, the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix. I mean, these people all benefited from Bill Graham's expertise in promoting concerts.
Right.
And he put together, in my opinion, when you look at the bands that played there and the amount of work and effort that made it different than other festivals, he put together Day on the Green. And that is what we're focusing on today. Day on the Green was shows that took place at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum in Oakland, California, 1973 to 1991, which is when Bill Graham died. He died in a helicopter crash probably a month after the 1991 Day on the Green.
Wow.
So, yeah. So he's an impressive guy anyway. And then our guest today is Dean Delray, who I've known Dean just through doing stand-up and online. Very super nice guy, but I follow his posts, and on Instagram, he posted a picture of Day on the Green, September 2nd, 1978. And it was a blackboard, like a chalkboard, of the lineup that he went and saw. And then he said, this was my first concert. But I think what he meant is first, like he had seen other music, like I think he says the Beatles, Beatlemania, like kind of cover tribute bands, whatever.
Yeah.
This was his first real rock and roll concert, Bay Area. I mean, when I saw that, I knew he was the guy to talk to about it, but also like, man, you saw Weird Al when you were 7. I saw Metallica when I was in 8th grade. Like, but seeing the lineup is Cheap Trick, AC/DC, Journey, Blue Oyster Cult, and Ted Nugent, and I think one other band. But like that, wow, that's fucking insane.
That is insane.
That is insane.
And that's mostly at their infancy in their careers, right?
Dude, well, that's the thing is Bill Graham got some of these people coming in that were like at the top of their game, and some coming in just on their way up, and some were like in this weird middle ground. like the first one they did was 1973. Okay. And the lineup was, and this is the thing, I think they started to, when he started it, Bill Graham's idea was to get as many different kind of acts together, giving people a wider variety of music. Eventually the lineups seemingly became more curated and were focused and geared towards certain audiences who liked that genre of music, you know? So in 1973, the first one goes off Leon Russell, Elvin Bishop, who's a blues guy, Mary McCreary, who I think ended up marrying Elvin Bishop, but was an R&B singer in her own right, and Loggins and Messina. That's Kenny Loggins, for anyone who's not familiar.
Yeah.
Footloose, Danger Zone,
yeah,
Kenny Loggins. Loggins and Messina. Like, that lineup doesn't interest me so much in the sense that I would go, but I wasn't like, ooh. But then they start to like, he's obviously 73 went well and people made money because the lineups after that, I just want to blast through them because I think it's kind of worth it. But so I read what happened in 1973. 1974, you got The Grateful Dead, The Beach Boys, New Riders on the Purple Sage, Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, The Band, Joe Walsh, Jesse Colin Young. 75, you got Chicago, The Beach Boys, Commander Cody again, New Riders again, Bob Seger, Doobie Brothers, Eagles, Kingfish with Bob Weir. Elton John pops in for a couple of encores. Robin Trower, Dave Mason, Peter Frampton, Fleetwood Mac, Gary Wright, Edgar Winter Group, Johnny Winter, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Earthquake, Climax Blues Band. That's 1975. 1976, Frampton again, Fleetwood Mac again, Gary Wright, Status Quo, UFO, Boz Scaggs, Tower of Power, Santana, Jeff Beck, Journey, Niles Lofgren, Jay Giles Band, Blue Oyster Cult, Mahogany Rush, Sammy Hagar, Marvin Gaye, The Temptations, Nancy Wilson, Harold Melvin, Donald Byrd, Hampton Hawes, Natalie Cole, Smokey Robinson, Happy Chinooka, everybody, Staple Singers, Teddy Pendergrass, B.B. King, Archie Bell, The Beach Boys, America, Elvin Bishop again, John Sebastian, Eagles again, Linda Rodstand, Loggins and Messina again, 77, Fleetwood Mac, Doobie Brothers, Gary Wright, Eagles, Steve Miller, Hart, Peter Frampton, Skynyrd, Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin, and Judas Priest at the largest day on the green in history, Led Zeppelin's last United States of America shows. The last time they played in America, 7/23 and 7/24, 1977, with Judas fucking Priest, okay? I can't explain to you how badass that show would be, but when we talk to Dean, there's just, it's fascinating because Dean has had the pleasure of speaking directly with Rob Halford, the lead singer of Judas Priest. He's had so many interesting people on his podcast that talking to Dean was just like talking to all those people. So it's
an incredible interview with a guy who's just awesome. Just an awesome guy. Yeah.
Dude. And 1978 was the year that he went, right? He went to September 2nd. But before that, those shows, because they were multiple weekends. It wasn't all on the same weekend, right? Mm-hmm. So the weekends before, leading up to September 2nd, in 1978 were Beach Boys, Linda Ronstadt, Alvin Bishop again, Dolly Parton, Aerosmith, Van Halen. 1978, Van Halen. Their first album just came out. The Stones, Santana, Eddie Money, Peter Tosh, Toots and the Maytals. Like,
wow, getting reggae in there, huh?
Dude, Bill
awesome.
Graham got everybody in there. And then, like I said, Dean's first show was Cheap Trick, AC/DC, Journey, Blue Oyster Cult, and Ted Nugent headlining. Today, I would reverse that order and make Ted Nugent open, then Blue Oyster Cult, then Cheap Trick.
Yeah, have
then
Ted
Journey,
Nugent
then
play as people walk in.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do now. But just what an amazing fucking and this I'm only reading up until 78. So after 78, it goes on until 91. So this all the way through the 80s. So you're talking they get Metallica and Anthrax, and they're getting metal bands, and they're getting a lot of bands played multiple times. Some bands only played once, never played again. But this was at the beginning of AC/DC's kind of rocket.
It's interesting to see, like, they did the first year and kind of go, okay, we really have something here. Let's get some heavy hitters in here. And then they're like, dude, heavy hitter after heavy hitter after heavy hitter. It's insane.
And with a guy like Bill Graham, by the time 73 rolls around, if Bill Graham called you to say he wanted your band to play somewhere, my guess is you just asked when and where and what time, how to get, you just moved, because that guy, literally, I don't know if the Grateful Dead would be in the situation they're in now without a guy like Bill Graham giving them the stage time and the areas to play,
Yeah.
And it was Bill Graham's birthday just the other day, which is kind of interesting. I didn't even really realize it until I'd already asked Dean to be on the show. So I don't know. That's kind of a pointless story. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. This is talking with Dean. I think you guys are going to find it fascinating because I absolutely loved it. It was really fun. I don't have too much more. I guess enjoy Dean Delray, guys. Day on the Green, baby.
From the Let There Be Talk podcast, which is about 572 episodes in. It's some of the best interviews out there right now, best discussions with some of the most unique and creative people that there are, and that have influenced me and a shit ton of other people, I assume. He's got a new podcast called The Grail that he just started. Probably recognize him from Marin, a couple of movies. The guy is probably the hardest working stand-up comic I know and has achieved a lot in a very small amount of time in the world of comedy. Dean Delray, everybody.
What's happening?
Hey, buddy. I know we've been chatting about the Bee Gees. You are a music lover. I'm you know what I mean? Like, you're a guy. You're like me. There is kind of like variety is the spice of life. You're not gonna. When I was younger, I did this, and I heard you say you did it too. You grew up in the Bay Area, correct?
Right.
You did not like the Grateful Dead growing up, correct?
Didn't.
Because you were in the Bay Area and it was being shoved down your throat as San Francisco music scene. And like any kid coming up, you rebel against the thing that everybody else is doing. You're like, dude, you guys are fucking nerds. I'm out. And I heard you talking to Andy Kindler about it on your podcast and saying, because I don't know you that well, but I know that you know John Mayer, you go to all the Dead & Co shows, and I assumed, if you're listening to the Dead & Company, I assumed there was this long kind of San Francisco background there, that you grew up on the Grateful Dead, and that just wasn't the case. You were more of a rock and roller. Is that?
Well, I liked all different music, and I always like to make that clear, because
even early on.
Yeah, early on, man. I was, like I said, Bee Gees. Right. I was way into Earth, Wind & Fire. I was way into James Brown. I loved disco, and I loved rock, and I loved Carole King. So I was all over the board.
Where did all that come from?
It was just from, really, I think about it, because yesterday was Bill Graham's birthday.
Yes, yeah.
There was a few things. It was my mom spinning records in the house, but also, and I've talked to many people about this, which is not around anymore. I talked to Ron Bennington about it. Back then, radio, there was a station in the Bay Area called KFRC, AM radio, 610, would play anything. So you're going to get, the Jackson 5, then you're going to get, let's say, Captain and Tennille.
Sure.
And then you're going to get Van Halen, Dance the Night Away. If it was a hit, the radio played it. So it didn't matter genre or anything. And that is gone now. So that was one of the things. And then the main thing I would say would be growing up around Bill Graham's concert bookings. So, and it was his birthday yesterday. So Bill would just do these shows, and it would be, you don't know who, it's just a gamut of different styles and everything.
Yeah, and that's I saw your post the other day. Your first concert ever, which is is always like to me, it's a landmark thing. When you talk to somebody who loves music and you're like, what was your first concert? And they tell you it doesn't really matter what it was, in the sense that, like, if it wasn't that cool or whatever, but like the fact that they got into music and they were there and they went and saw it live and it kind of hooked them in. Your first fucking concert was a Day on the Green show at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, and it was September 2nd, 1978.
Yeah.
Right?
That's actually my first Day on the Green. I saw a couple concerts before, Beatlemania, this kind of stuff, concert.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my first, like, whoa, like a big show. I'm talking about, I didn't go to any kind of arenas or anything until that show. And the reason I was going was I was in love with Ted Nugent at the time. Cat Scratch
Interesting.
Fever. Yeah, there was a girl. There was two different people. One of my best friends was this guy Chris Mihalik, and his sister Esther Mihalik would drive us to junior high. She would have to drive us. The parents are like, "We'll give you a car, but you got to drive your little brother to school too."
Right.
And she had the 8-track, and I never forgot it. It was Double Live Gonzo, and we were in the back, like I was in the back getting lessons from her and this other guy named Rick Ortega, who was my buddy Bobby Ortega's older brother. So you get in the car and you're going to get Eagles Life in the Fast Lane. These are 8 tracks. One of them was a Camaro. The other one was a Toyota Corolla. But with both 8 tracks, they would pop them in, Boston, 1 and 2, heavy rotation, Zeppelin. But Nugent really grabbed me first. So when
what about Nugent grabbed you first? Was it?
There was just the radicalness of Double Live Gonzo, the raps in between, like, if you came to be mellow, you can turn around and get the fuck out of here. Fuck yeah. Like you're in 6th, 7th grade, and these raps that he would fire off, I don't think I came here to be a little bit mellow. You know what I mean? Did anybody here? Did I come to be a little bit mellow? And you're just like, what the fuck is this? But at the same time, I'm watching Saturday Night Live with Belushi. And this is kind of my introduction also to radical outlaw type of stuff. The music on there, Devo and the Stones 78, Some Girls. I was obsessed with the Some Girls record. Miss You was a huge hit. So all of that was mixing in with me. So when the TED was coming, I was like, I got to go to this. So we got the tickets. My mom got them. We drove, and it started at 10 a.m. in the morning.
I saw the chalkboard with the lineup, and Ted Nugent is headlining the show. The concert, I mean, let's see, what is it? Cheap Trick plays first.
Right.
Like
right.
Today I feel like it might be a completely reversed order, but it's Cheap Trick, AC/DC, Journey, Blue Oyster Cult, and then Ted Nugent.
Right.
If you can, if for anybody watching, listening, if you can comprehend first of all, Journey must have been massive at the time.
Well, they had the Infinity record had just come out with Wheel in the Sky and Lights. So they were fucking huge.
On their way, yeah.
They had just got Steve Perry, and Lights was a massive hit on the record, on the radio, and so is Wheel in the Sky. And man, that is the greatest Journey record ever made. Greg Raleigh and Steve Perry singing together. So if you look at those bands, the only one I knew at the time was Nugent. I knew some Journey song, and I knew Sin City, because it was being played on the radio.
From Power, was that Powerade?
Powerades, and that's the Powerades tour. Brand new.
Right.
But I don't know AC/DC. I don't know. I know Cheap Trick. I can't remember if it's, I don't even think I know Cheap Trick, because I don't know when Over the Edge comes out with Matt Dillon. That's when I really learned Cheap Trick. But when I get there in the morning, by the end of the day, my whole life has changed. Every one of those bands I listen to today.
Yeah, and AC/DC, from what I glean off the internet, is your favorite band.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's like 5 favorite bands, but AC/DC and Zeppelin are the ones.
Sure, and Zeppelin has played Day on the Green. I mean, the amount of bands that came through, and I think it started as a kind of a carefully curated, as big of a hodgepodge as you could get, and then they kind of eventually became very curated lineups. Like, this is a Motown lineup, this is a rock and roll lineup. But at the beginning, it was like, here's a guy who plays, here's a jazz guy, here's some blues, and it was kind of, and they
that was the Bill Graham thing,
Yeah, because again, music. If you put on blinders and you only like one type of music, or you only think like I like rock and roll and that's it, you are missing out on things that are they'll tickle your brain, man. It'll tickle your brain. It's okay. Here's what I want. How old were you?
I was in. So I'm 54 now, about to be 55. So I was going into 7th grade. So it was the summer of like 6th grade going into 7th grade. I believe that is the thing on it.
Yeah.
I have the shirt. It's around here. I should have busted it out for you.
You can't wear that still though.
No.
Okay. But
because the shirt, I mean, I was a 12-year-old or 11-year-old. Yeah. So it's like I have it here though, and it's pretty monumental. But I brought a camera.
Wow.
And I took pictures, and it is unreal. And I'll send them over to you or whatever. I'll dig them up upstairs. But there's that classic stoner look, the white wife beater,
yep,
and a headband, but not in a gang way. Folded small back then.
Yeah,
stoner.
Around the top, just around. Yeah.
Yeah, and then shitty little pencil mustaches on all the guys trying to grow mustaches, because mustache rock was huge in the 70s. You had to have a mustache, man. B.O.C., Nugent, Boston. It was mustache rock. So,
So everyone's trying. Like, no, I got it. It's coming in.
Yeah,
it's coming in. Dude, you got dirt on your lip. What is that? No. That's a mustache.
So I brought a shitty little Instamatic and took the pictures, and I still got, I think I got one here. Hold on. Let me see if I can show you. Because I keep them in my phone. It's pretty unreal, though. And I think the thing we need to address is what I had never seen is, I'll find it later because I don't want to stall this out, but there was a guy, and of course I know everything about Day on the Green because I think it's the greatest United States concert series ever done.
It's a gold, to me, it's the gold standard of everything that's come after it,
Right. But what a huge part of that was a guy named Dennis Larkins. And what he did was he was in charge of painting the scrims, which set the scene. The scrims are the things that go over the stage speakers there that no one had done before. Before you just show up at a show, like if you look at like Woodstock or whatever, and it's just speakers and fucking, scaffolding.
Yeah.
That was it. And then a fucking piece of wood. Well, Bill had this idea of like, I want these concerts. How can we make them feel like Broadway, like a play or something? Bring it in so we're not just in a shitty baseball park.
And that comes from, go ahead.
Fuck yeah. And it comes from like, I want this thing to be like we're in the theater, man. And he got this guy, Dennis Larkins, and who's got a book. And they came up with set designs for every show. So the one I went to, the first one, was a jungle. Ted Nugent, and Ted swung out on a vine, and bombs went off, and it was a full jungle with all of these fucking like voodoo heads. They like stick sculpt into sticks. That was all around. And so I walk into the baseball park, and I'm like, I've been there to see the A's play.
I was going to say, you'd been there before. You'd seen the A's play.
Of course. So now I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is insane. So to see bands with these backdrops, so if you can Google them, and I own photos of every stage that was done. I own them now. They're all, my dream is just to do a whole Day on the Green house,
Oh, wow.
So
what do you mean you own photos of it? What?
Giant photo. There was a pro guy named Baron Woolman who just passed away, who I had on the podcast, and he was in charge of shooting these. So each show, he would go to the back of the Coliseum and shoot the stage, so you could really see. Yeah. So you get the throw. So I have every one. So, you know, if you look at Boston, it's Boston 2. The ship is fucking flying in, you know. If you look at Monsters of Rock, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex and another dinosaur fighting, you know. They had a British invasion with Frampton, and that was you know, it was a castle. And then they had Mount Rushmore, which was cool for 4th of July. And that was Skinnerd and, you know, so there was all these, and they're humongous, man. Hold on. I'll get the book.
Okay.
I got to turn my background off or else you won't see it here.
Okay.
You can tell I've been zooming for a long time.
Yeah, you got that.
So this is the guy's book.
Oh, wow, dude.
His name's Dennis Larkins, okay? And he did the Grateful Dead, Warfield.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay?
Dude.
Now I've been trying to do a documentary on Dan the Green here for 10 years now. And so let me give you...
Wait, you've been trying to do a documentary?
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. Yeah.
Dude, honestly, I had no idea.
Oh yeah. So, okay. So here's Monsters of Rock.
Okay.
There it is.
Good.
That's the dinosaurs. And that's Nugent on right there. That was Nugent Aerosmith that day. This is a great photo. It's Bill down here looking at it. And there's the sketches of the dinosaurs. Okay. And then this is my favorite one, and I own a painting of this. This is Zeppelin, and this is where the Stonehenge comes from Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
So, and what people don't know is these things were so big. This one was great. It was Hagar, and he came out of the side of a Trans Am.
Oh my God, that's fucking genius.
Yeah, and then this one's great. Rock and Roll Circus. They were huge. I mean, you gotta understand how fucking big these things were.
And that's Bill Graham being a guy who came from putting on plays and being that impresario producer guy.
Look at the Boston one.
Dude, that is sick.
And then he painted them all in Winterland at first, but then Winterland got torn down, so they painted them over at the Oakland airport in a airplane hangar. That's how big they were.
Oh, wow.
And then they would roll them out and post them up. So I met Dennis Larkins, and he had done a full 3-dimensional painting of the Stones Tattoo You tour stage for Bill, including the people and everything. So I reached out, found him about 15, 16 years ago and said, can you do the Zeppelin painting for me? And he did it, and I own it. It's a full giant 3-dimensional painting of that stage, and it looks like the people, and you see the guys on stage. It's like nothing. Here, I'll show you. It's like nothing you've ever seen. And it took him a year to paint it for me.
Where is that? Where do you put that?
It's hanging in my house. Okay, here. So here is what Bill Graham's Stones one looks like. And what you can't see is that's all 3-dimensional. So he sprays the painting with like foam to give it like 3D effect.
So it's like if you touched it, you would feel it.
Oh yeah, you feel it. It's like, so mine is the Zeppelin, and it's two things I love. Dennis Larkin, who did the paintings, and Baron Woolman, who shot the photos. So I took the Baron Woolman photo and had the guy paint it for me. And it's the crown jewel of my collection for sure.
Wow, man, that is impressive. How many days on the green did you end up going to?
I pretty much saw them all from then on out.
No shit, because the lineups are,
unreal.
So did you see the Led Zeppelin dance?
No, that was 77. It was 1 year. I was 1 year too young, man.
Yeah.
And that is what a lot of people don't know is Zeppelin's last shows in America ever.
Yeah.
And because they're supposed to play New Orleans like 2 days later, and Plant's son dies. So the tour is canceled. They go back home. They don't play for a long time. They do In Through the Outdoor. They book a U.S. tour, and Bonzo dies after the Europe 13 dates in Germany.
Yeah.
So they never come back. That's also the show. If you read the Bill Graham book, which is unbelievable, that is the show where Peter Grant and the other guy beat almost to death the staff guy working for Bill Graham, because Peter Grant's son, I guess, or somebody's son, was taking the Zeppelin name off the dressing room to take home, and a security guard came up and threw him down like, "What are you doing? You don't touch that shit." And then Bonzo, Peter Grant, and another guy threw the guy in a dressing room and beat him down. And then that night in the hotel, Bill Graham came to their room and they said, "You got to sign this saying you won't sue us or we don't play tomorrow." So he signed it. And there's the law that if you sign something under distress or whatever,
it's under duress. It doesn't.
Right. It doesn't matter. So they arrested the guys the next day after the show. And I don't know, they paid and got out or whatever. But it's a really dark cloud of a day. And also Judas Priest opened that show, and Rick Derringer.
How crazy is that? Priest and Zeppelin on a show. I mean, that's just mind blowing to me. That's something I can't even fathom seeing today.
I had Rob Halford on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and I asked him how it came about, and he said that that Robert Plant requested them and had liked the Judas Priest, one of the records or whatever, and they were just finishing their U.S. tour, and they were about to fly home. And they got the call to do the gig, so they didn't want to fly home. They didn't have enough money to fly home and come back, so they stayed in a shitty, seedy hotel around the corner from Oakland Coliseum for 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Instead of flying back to England.
Yeah, and it was like the band in one room and the crew in another, and it was like a shitty green molded swimming pool. And he said they're like laying around the pool each day waiting to do the show, and they hadn't played in 2 weeks. No rehearsal or anything, just waiting to do the show.
And they show up and they play in front of Led Zeppelin. I mean, that's fucking and two days. And I assume Rob Halford speaks fondly of that in a way like how when you're just starting out in comedy and you're always on the road and like things, you look back on those days like, man, that was fucking crazy.
Game changer for them, because 65,000 saw him each day, and Robert Plant was a fan and threw him a bone. And I was talking to Marin about this last night. There's these key things in your career, no matter what you're doing, even if you're fucking, a construction guy, but a comedian especially. There's just little bumps in your career that really could help. Even if it's a pro guy going, "That's a great joke, dude," when you got off stage, and you go home and you're like, "Fuck, man, Marin thought that was," or Dave Attell or Burr thought that was a great joke. Just a little thing like that, or opening for one of these guys. Those are the things that really keep you going.
Yeah, I tell man.
Yeah. I want to quit music. I played it 25 years. I wanted to quit the last 10 years, but I kept getting these bumps. It's almost like chipping away like a junkie. Somebody go, "Hey, you want to open this tour?" And I'd be like, "I was just going to quit." Yeah, I guess. So yeah, I'll do the tour. And then you're in another 2 years.
Dude, and that's, you were a musician before you were a comedian. Were you playing guitar and back when you were in middle school? When you saw Day on the Green, were you already playing the guitar?
I didn't play guitar till later, live on stage. I was a singer because I got drums first, and couldn't play drums on I was just like, in my apartment And I was like, this is no good. Then I traded the drums for a Gibson SG because I loved AC/DC. And I was learning guitar and playing rhythm and shit. But every band needed a singer. Nobody needed a guitar player. There's a million guitar players. No one wanted to sing. So I was like, fuck it, I'll sing. And, I started singing, and then fucking half my life went by.
Yeah. So
but the truth is I wanted to do comedy the whole time,
Really?
Well, I loved Saturday Night Live. I loved Caddyshack. I loved Belushi. I loved Jonathan Winters. I loved Newhart. I loved All in the Family. I loved Cheech and Chong. I loved Sanford and Son. So as much as I loved music, I loved comedy exactly the same. Exactly the same. There was no difference.
That's so interesting. Growing up, I feel like I loved music and comedy the same as well, but there was always, I was like, oh, but I want to be a guitar. I want to be Eddie Van Halen. I want to be on stage playing the guitar. And slowly I'm like, or do I not want to lug gear around? Or I'm not even a good guitar player. Like this, I got no future here. Like I can be in shitty bands my whole life, or I can just move on and keep playing the guitar on my own. And that's essentially what I did, and then found comedy, years later. But I always think like comics deep down want to be rock stars, and rock stars deep down were like, man, I'd love to do what you do. That's great.
Well, that's how my podcast started, because I was thinking, well, I'll interview all these rock stars that I worked with or knew over the years and ask them if they ever wanted to do comedy at the end of the episode. That's how the whole thing started. But I mean, if there was YouTube and comedy camps and all that shit when I was growing up, I would have been a comedian. I grew up in San Francisco, and comedy was massive there in the 80s. That's the first comedy boom. Massive. You had the San Francisco Comedy Festival was huge. You had Bobby Slayton, Carrie Snow, and Alex Bennett show in the mornings. You had Robin Williams, and then you had Bobcat, and Bobcat changed it all for me. As soon as I saw Bobcat, I was like, what the fuck is this? This is
can
radical.
Be a madman and a comedian.
Yeah, and
be
homeless.
A rock and roll comedian. I can be a rock and roll comedian.
Right. And it's funny because when I started comedy 11 years ago, I immediately was saying, I do not want to be known as the rock and roll comic, and I don't want to be known as the biker comic at all. So I'm glad that it didn't happen back then, because I would have been boxed in all those years.
But eventually you could have broken out of it. It's just, you're right. Some people do get, they kind of become prisoners of their own personality. And even if you wanted to, like, I remember when I first started doing comedy, the first time I showed up to do a set with jeans I used to do all these jokes about how I looked homeless and I stole all my clothes off a dead guy at Hollywood Park, all this fucking random shit. And I showed up in a new pair of jeans one day, and this guy looked at me, he goes, well, what are you going to talk about? And I was like, I don't want to be the fucking homeless comic. I don't want to be the ripped jeans comic. I'm like, I got jokes, bitch. Like, and then I had to like really focus on, like, it didn't matter how I looked. I just needed to get up there and be funny,
Yeah. You get those crutches going. Like, I had a giant mustache, remember? Like, I grew the mustache for a movie, and then people were like, keep that, man. You'll get a lot of auditions and stuff. And I didn't get shit from it. And I also had 3 years of a mustache for no reason.
You didn't get any commercials out of that?
Fuck no, man. I never landed anything, man. Anything I got was from the Comedy Store stage. Somebody would come up and go, hey, I got a movie for you, man. I did a lot of movies and TV over the last 10 years, and it was all from the store, from being on and somebody coming up like, hey, you interested in doing this or that, or Marin threw me a bone, or being on Love, that TV show Love, that kind of stuff, all from the store,
That's awesome, dude. That is awesome, because that's very rarely do I ever read or hear about somebody who does something strictly by the rules that are provided by the gatekeepers and that they succeed. Does that make sense? Like, you don't read a book like, oh, I moved to LA and then they told me I needed to get a manager and then get headshots. So I did this and then I did this and then I did this and then I did none of that shit ever. Like, we were talking about this. The first episode of this show was a kind of a celebration of podcasts themselves.
Yeah.
And Marin's podcast, What the Fuck, really like when you talk about you get a bump and you kind of like, oh, I'm going to keep going. Like I was like wondering if comedy was still for me, and then I got Live at Gotham, and then that's another 3 years. I'm like, I'm in, and then I'm like, oh man, maybe I'm not cut out for this, and then I get something else. But when I started listening to Maron's podcast, he's always interested me as a human being, kind of from a distance, just because he always seemed kind of a loner, and he did seem like a guy who burned a lot of bridges early on. So I wasn't sure his whole story, but that podcast, I always liked how, one, he would have guests on that he knew didn't like him from the past. So he'd be like, okay, what did I do to you, 15 years ago or whatever. But two, the most important thing I got out of that was every comic he talked to, whether I thought they were worthwhile as performers or not, or like comedy, every one of them had a different idea what it was going to be like when they got to where they were going. Oh, I got to LA and I thought this, and this. And then they ended up on a different path. And they found a way to be happy doing this other thing, or this other thing they didn't even know about brought them joy, or whatever it was. But like, nobody's ever like, I did it by the book and it worked.
Yeah. It's funny too, when you think about, I think about comedy and how competitive it is, and for Maron to have these people on and say, hey, what did I do wrong and everything. I think, as fucking hippie as this sounds, I don't understand the anger over somebody getting successful, or if something small happens between two comics. I don't understand why they don't just pull each other aside and go, hey man, I wasn't digging this. Just give you a heads up, not being a dick, but let's just squish this now. And we're going to be in the hall for 20 years here, the hallway.
Yeah.
So, I really don't understand that frame of mind. Now with Maron, I get it, because people grow apart, people go across country, people's careers go up and down. But early on, when people get angry, somebody come up, fuck that guy. I'm like, not really. I don't have any enemies. My enemies are cancer and heart attacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
There is. Like I can admit very freely to this, of when I was earlier on, before I kind of got my wits about me, when I was starting out, I would get angry at other people's success. And then slowly I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You're mad because someone got a thing that you didn't even audition for. Yeah. You're mad because someone is living in a newer house because they got a TV show that you didn't audition for. Like, get your shit together, dude. Get out there. If I'm that mad that somebody's getting a part ahead of me, I better fucking step up my game and get in front of that dude and then fucking get that part myself. So when people get jealous or angry about, or when they're mad about something at the club, or they're mad about something in the world of comedy, you're just like, take a breath, take a step back. Look at the big picture, man. You could have a pile of paperwork for a job you hated that you had to work 16 hours a day for the rest of your life. Like, things could be much, much worse.
I mean, and also, nothing's fair. Nothing is fair. And I worked at Harley Davidson selling motorcycles before I did comedy. And there were dudes that fucking hated that job. So it doesn't matter if you're in comedy, there's not going to be any magical spot unless you work for yourself. So where you go like, man, I love everybody and everybody's positive and it's great. It just doesn't happen because people are humans. But there is one thing I know, and people taught me this early on. Everybody has their own route. Nobody took anything from you. And most of the time, it's just reflecting on your own anger of like, I'm lazy, I smoke weed, I play video games. That motherfucker hustles. Fuck him! Fuck him.
Right, yeah. Well, you got up before I did today. What a piece of shit.
Yeah, but it's really fuck me. I'm fucking slacking. I haven't wrote new jokes. I haven't fucking waited in line in the sun to go on. I haven't started a podcast 9 years ago. And I'm not just saying me. I'm just saying, like, when people are angry, you usually go like, it's really, really, you're angry at yourself, and just fix it.
And that's honestly, if people did that with any emotion, if you can just be that set of eyes that's watching how you react, not your thoughts, not your personality, not who you are, but like your literal true awareness, that ball of energy that can see you reacting to the things that you're reacting to. If you can take just a beat to go, Why? Why am I mad? Why am I angry? Why am I pissed? Why am I happy? Why am I sad? And just think about that. You will diffuse any kind of reactionary outburst that might happen. I mean,
yep. I mean, I've had plenty of anger and stuff, but I don't just throw it out there. I work on myself, and and I don't bring it to the club. I go, here we go. This is great.
And you've always, I mean, since I've seen you around the store, since you started doing comedy, when I noticed you've never. Whenever I say hi to you, there are some people, even if you don't know them, that, hey man, how you doing? Oh, fuck, and then you get like an earful.
Yeah.
I've never gotten that from you. And I'm not saying I stop you and go, Dean, seriously, tell me how you are. But like, there are people who I just randomly say hi to, and then I have to sit there and listen to, why the world has taken a dump on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
How it's not their fault.
Yeah.
I want to get back to concerts real quick. You went from being a singer in bands, you went to selling motorcycles, doing comedy now. First of all, that AC/DC set that they played at Day on the Green, I kind of want to get back to because my first concert was Metallica and the Cult in 1989.
Killer. Saw that.
I mean, I already loved Metallica, but that solidified them as like, oh my God, this is fucking phenomenal, You saw AC/DC, was it like a switch, or were you like, oh man, these guys are all right? And then you kind of got into them further and then became obsessed? Or
that day, to see each one of those bands was so mind-boggling to me, because first of all, you got Cheap Trick comes on, okay?
At 10 in the morning.
Yeah. They come on, and they've got this, which is really bizarre about these two bands back to back, which I'd never fucking seen. Rick, who is the guitar player, comes on, and he is dressed exact to that guy in the Bowery Boys that I used to watch those old TV shows.
Yeah. Slip and Satch.
He's got the hat flipped up. He's wearing a weird bow tie, a sweater, and he's just rock. And I go, hey, is that Bowery Boy guy? I swear to God, I thought it was him. I was like, this guy's in a band. Okay, so he's completely this weird character. And then next up is AC/DC, and you got Angus, who's a character too. Now, this does not happen in rock ever now, where a guy comes out and he goes, I'm dressed as a frog the whole show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shit doesn't happen. And I remember everybody wigging out over Angus. And I remember this specifically. They came through the crowd. Bon used to hold Angus and go through the crowd back then, not a security guard like now.
Wow.
So they came, I'd say about 10 feet from me, and I saw Bon's tattoos, and that was a game changer for me. I was like, whoa, this guy's crazy. I never forgot it. Like, he had the fucking big ass parrot on his arm, And I was like, whoa. And everybody loved Angus, and I was fixed on Bon. Just the way he was up there. He had this mini vest on. And he go, all right, you're sounding good tonight. And you'd be like, what the fuck? This is a good day out here, Oakland, And I was like, wow. And it went by like skydiving, I always say. It just like, zoom, it was gone. And then came Journey, and Journey rocked the fuck out of the place. Somebody quoted on that photo I posted up, like, what the fuck, Journey with an hour and a half set? Bullshit. And I was like, first of all, they were the Bay Area's babies.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're from San Francisco, aren't they?
Right. And Bill was way into helping them. But what happens next really changes my world. Blue Oyster Cult comes on. They got the Godzilla. It's fucking spitting smoke and shit. They've got the 5 guitars at the end, 5 guys playing guitar up front. They got the SGs with the mirrors on the back, and they're blasting like sunlight. And then they're running the guitars together. The whole fucking day is a theater It's everything coming at me. And then Nuge comes on and he swings out on this rope and bombs are going off and he absolutely destroys the place, you know? Opens up with fucking get ready, stormtroopers come down, you know, just like, I mean, Nuge sucks now, and I say it
definitely does.
Fuck that guy.
He is a cocksuck.
Yeah. But and I had Rollins on the show, and Rollins loves fucking Nuge from that era.
Really,
and,
Henry Rollins?
Oh, him and Fugazi. What's his name from Fugazi? They went and saw the Nuge, and he told the story out in DC or whatever, and they love Nuge also, big time.
That's
big
crazy.
Time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, from that day on, I remember I go home, I get AC/DC If You Want Blood, You Got It record. And that was it for me. And then Highway to Hell came real quick after that.
That was the only use, like up to the Power Age, the only other album they put out with Bon Scott was Highway to Hell, right?
Right. That was the last one. So, you know, you got, I mean, they didn't play America till 77, and they play Old Waldorf in San Francisco on the 77 tour. So they come and play a little club, and then the following year they're playing a fucking goddamn Coliseum. And then they do it again in 78. They do Day on the Green in 78. They play it twice in 77. They do it one day with Van Halen.
Dude, I saw that lineup. I saw that. What? Because for me, man, like when I first heard, I've heard 1984 when I was in grade. I bought that and Purple Rain. And I was like listening with headphones and my little ghetto blaster. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was taking guitar lessons in like a week.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta play the guitar.
Purple Rain is massive to me also, at the same way that Saturday Night Fever is. Purple Rain, The Beautiful Ones, is probably the best ballad ever wrote.
That record, it's something else, man. I don't have a ton of Prince, like, you know, I love Prince, but I haven't bought a lot of Prince, but I have Purple Rain on record after I had it on tape for fucking however many years because I love it so much.
What you should own is Sign of the Times, the greatest record he ever made.
Dude, I heard that record is really good. I've heard most of it. I don't think I've heard all of it though.
It's nothing better. I met Prince, man. It was wild. Hung out with him all night in New York. It was so crazy.
Whoa, how long ago was that?
That was back in probably 2002, 3 or 4, right in there somewhere. I was on tour with the Wallflowers, and Jacob Dylan and I were at a nightclub called Bungalow 8 in New York. Very, very hip club, you know, one of those.
Yeah.
And this guy came over, and you can hear the whole story on my podcast with Jacob, because I don't like to ruin the story, because Jacob tells this story so fucking good that I don't like to ruin it. But
so Jacob Dylan on your Let There Be Talk podcast?
Yeah.
Right.
And he tells the story of us hanging with Prince one night. It's unreal.
Yeah, if you're listening, watching, definitely check that out. You can find that. Your podcast is everywhere. It's anywhere.
It's everywhere but Stitcher and Spotify now. I took them off those.
Yeah, because let me guess, you don't get any money from either of them?
Correct. And they were running ads without paying me.
Spotify's got some fucking balls, huh?
Stitcher too, man. Stitcher just sold for $300 million to SiriusXM. They didn't give one nickel to any of us that have been providing content for years and years and years on there. And listen, I do not complain, and I do not talk shit about them. I just I remove it and let people know. No way do I go, fuck those guys, man. That's you have the option. Pull it off or leave it on. That's the option. And that's how I did it, you know?
Very smart. Very wise. Dean, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, man. This has been fucking awesome. I feel like I could probably talk to you about music all day. Real quick, just because I love AC/DC as well. They were like, once I found Van Halen, it wasn't too long after that. Like I was into skateboarding, so I was like always skateboarding, and everyone else was starting to listen to all this punk rock, which I did enjoy. But then I heard AC/DC from my neighbor, and it blew my mind. And the earliest, like the Bon Scott years are really like, that is some, in my opinion, now it's underappreciated rock and roll for the most part. But man, the set list, I looked up the set list from that day: Live Wire, Problem Child, Sin City, Gone Shootin', Bad Boy Boogie, Whole Lotta Rosie, The Jack, Rocker, Let There Be Rock, and Dog Eat Dog.
Oh, that was one thing I forgot to say. They played Dog Eat Dog, right? And then Nugent had a Dog Eat Dog song. And I was like, what the fuck?
Are they doing a nude song?
I go, wait, is this that song I heard earlier today? You know what I mean? I was just confused, which was wild, you know?
Yeah.
That set list, you got to know, whenever Bon was in the band for years, they opened with Livewire. And I recently interviewed AC/DC on the podcast, which was fucking nuts to me.
Dude, good for you, by the way. Congratulations. That had to have been fucking awesome for you.
It was beyond. It was beyond. But I found out why they opened with Livewire. It was because most of the time they didn't have time to sound check. So Livewire was basically like a sound check every show. So it starts with the bass, do, 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 do. So the guy can mix the bass, and then it goes the Malcolm rhythm. Bow, bow, bow. Now he's got the rhythm. You know, blah, and then Angus comes in.
It's all being done on the board as it's
right on the fly. That's the sound check, man. And so whenever I do the tribute to Bon Scott, we always open with Livewire, you know?
Dude, and that's another thing I wanted. You have your birthday party the last few years. You've done live shows where you sing, play guitar, all the comics and rock stars in your band play guitar, sing AC/DC songs, exclusively Bon Scott AC/DC songs.
I've been doing it 40 years, but I took like 10 years off when I started comedy because I didn't really know who to do it with, you know, but I did it in the Bay Area years and years and years. And I would pick bands like Exodus and Jet Boy. And, you know, I had like, you know, people like Paul Gilbert from Mr. Big. I would have all these celebrities play. And we would pick a record every year. And then when I moved to LA, I didn't do it for years. And then when I turned 50, I did the Delray at the El Rey. And I was like, fuck it, let's do this. You know, Mark plays guitar, Bill plays drums. Let's get some, you know, we had Mike Keneally from Zappa. We had Scotty M from Anthrax, and Tracy Guns from LA Guns, and Mark Ford from Black Crowes, and, you know, Nikki Sixx has done it.
I mean, these are all great musicians. You know what I mean? This isn't like a fucking ragtag guys who haven't been in a band in a long time. These are like all dudes that fucking still kick ass.
Oh, yeah. We had Juliette Lewis out there just crushing Dirty Deeds, and Brad Wilk on drums. And the guy that really crushes it is Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes. He's the drummer, the main drummer of it. And he's just fucking gold back there, man. Gold. And
AC/DC, the drums, like, I don't know that they get the respect necessarily they deserve, but that first album, when someone pointed out to me that there were no drum fills anywhere on the album, I was like, well, that can't be right.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever heard one on there. I've listened to it. I don't think it's just straight drumming the whole time. It's fucking, that's insane to me. Like, you don't find, drummers can't do that.
Well, that's Phil Rudd, and I talked to Phil Rudd about it, and I told him that, I go, you know, Phil Rudd's one of the greatest drummers of all time. I think probably the greatest because of his feel and everything. And the way I know is whenever we do the Bon Scott tribute and you have a bunch of drummers sit in, they're all like, I got this, man. And then they go, what the fuck? How do you do this? What's the feel? This guy's a god, you know? Yeah. All the drummers are just trying to figure it out, you know? And you can tell, you're like, oh yeah. You're trying to find that feel right now. You're trying to get that groove, that swing, you know? And some people are born with that, you know?
Some people,
it's like crowd work. You know, when you're riffing crowd work and you're fucking seamless and it's going good. And then another guy goes, I can do crowd work. And they get up there and it's all clunky. And
I'll tell you right off the bat, I know full well I shouldn't be doing crowd. Like when I see somebody riffing with the crowd, I'm like, okay, you have your fun. Because when I get up there, that ain't going to be it. Because I can't do that. I suck at crowd work. But
I look at comedy the same way as I look at the Grateful Dead, because I love the Dead now, of course. But if I can do it in a Dead fashion of jamming, there's no better comedy to me. So I got the bits here. So the Dead, they've got the tunes here. And then over here, I've got a little crowd work. And then I've also got riffing. And when those are fucking mixing through, there's no better set on the planet. And when you get confused where you're at and shit, it's more dangerous than ever. You're like, did I do this joke already? Oh, dude, I'm fucked.
Multiple shows in a night at the same club. When show 3, you're like, dude, did I already tell all these jokes? Am I?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. But I've always felt I heard at Brody Stevens' memorial at the store, Stephen Randolph said Brody's comedy, he told Brody his comedy was a lot like the Grateful Dead, about how you never really knew what was going to happen. It was all kind of spontaneous. But like what you said, the Dead have their songs. They have this collection of tunes, and they get up there and they might not know what they're going to play, but it's going to be from this collection of tunes. And then they might pop in something they just played the other day. And then they might, you know what I mean? And then there's the in-between and drums and space and the fucking how long each song goes. I always look at my sets like I might be telling the same jokes from one show to the next, but I'm never going to tell them the same way.
Exactly.
There's going to be stuff in there that's similar, but there's always going to be words that are different, a glance, a point, a look, something that happens generated from the audience, because you're in a live situation, and ignoring that is insane. So you can't so you have to,
that was the bird advice to me. Always constantly try to get a new tag on. You know what I mean? And that's,
look, it's that's good advice, dude, because then you're going to eventually get to one that is either like, that's it, the joke is finished, there it is, or it'll lead you to something else. It's like, it's wise. That's good advice. Burr fucking knows what he's talking about, I suppose. I guess we can give Bill Burr the benefit of the doubt when it comes to stand-up comedy.
Yeah. I always liked, one of my favorites on the planet is Norm Macdonald. And I always felt he was dangerous as fuck, because he would just get up there and you're like, is this material or is this his crazy brain? You know what I mean?
That's a skill too. When you question that, you're like, is this guy actually just fucking shooting shit out of his ass, or is this predetermined?
I fucking love him, man. I remember one day he was at the store and he was doing a bit about apples. What's the one apple that's like juicy, or they had to like, there's an apple that has like, oh, Honey Crisp or something. Something like delicious or whatever.
Oh, yes. Delicious apples.
Yeah. And he's like, you can't just call yourself delicious. Not everyone. You're saying everyone, he's getting into this whole thing. And I was like, this is fucking so goddamn funny. And I'm in the back laughing, and he got up and I go, dude, that was amazing. He goes, yeah, tell those guys in there.
Again, always thinking like I didn't do that well. I didn't do as well as I wanted.
Fucking great.
That never goes away. You're talking to Norm Macdonald. He's like, might not.
Yeah. Doesn't go away. Doesn't go. I'm always constantly like, I gotta get funnier. That's all I care about.
Good. That's a fine thing look, you should care about your health and all that other stuff. But yes, there ain't nothing fucking wrong with focusing on what you love doing and getting as good as you can at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dean, thank you so much, man. This has been a lot of fun. Again, I think I could talk music with you all day. Oh, real quick, did you bought that Day on the Green t-shirt when you were there? Did you wear it to school the next day?
100%. School,
or whenever the next day of school.
Yeah, I think school started like a week later, because I think that was like a Labor Day weekend or something. Yeah. And then I told the story where I wore the shirt. My next show I went to was Kiss Dynasty, and I wore those two shirts until they kind of disintegrated.
Yeah, they just wear away, and it's like the fabric just kind of
you could see through them. You know what I mean? Yeah, you wouldn't want to use them as a COVID mask.
I turned mine into a blanket. I had mine sewn into a blanket.
Oh, I've seen people that did that. It's cool.
Yeah, it's really good. A couple $100, and you take all the shirts that don't fit you, and you tell them if you want the back or the front. So like I had a couple Van Halen tees that didn't fit, a couple Grateful Dead tees that I bought in the early 90s that didn't fit. That fuck it, they're a blanket now, so I don't have to like get rid of the shirts. And
I love it. Burr bought a shirt from the Turbo Tour, I believe it was, Priest, and he cut the sleeves off, but wrong. It's all fucked up. So he took a picture of it to me recently, and he emailed me over to me and said, "You think we could fix this somehow?" And I was like, no, we got to just frame it. Dude,
That's it. Frame it. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? You ruined this shirt.
Cut it down the sides and frame the front and the back.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
God damn it.
That's really funny. Can we fix this?
Yeah, he was dead serious. He's
well, because I'm sure he was like, dude, I'd love to fucking rock out this fucking Judas Priest t-shirt now.
I'll just find him another one on eBay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Here's the original, you know.
It also doesn't have sleeves.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. All right. Well, Dean, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you got coming up? I mean, besides your the Grail podcast, I know, and then Let There Be Talk, which is phenomenal.
When is this out?
We don't really know.
Okay.
It could be a couple weeks because we're
whatever then. I got a brand new podcast called The Grail, and it basically I interview people that make handmade stuff, guitars, cars, denim, boots, stereos, anything handmade, people working outside the box, creators, artists. I've had painters on, and I really love this podcast because I like to shine light on these people. Without them, we're all shopping in Walmarts and looking the same. So fuck all that. These guys I've been interviewing them for 9 years, and I decided to give them their own show called The Grail, meaning, this week, this is the Holy Grail. So I just had Jesse James on, who's the Holy Grail of custom-made choppers in my eyes. So it's on every Wednesday, and it's on iTunes and YouTube channel, Dean Delray.
Awesome. So check that out. And then also real quick, this podcast started when Indy hit me up, and we were talking about doing something together. And then when I came up with the idea, I remember I'm sure this isn't your quote necessarily, but I remember seeing you post this. I equate it to you because you're the first person I ever saw say, celebrate what's great, not what you hate.
Yeah, promote what's great, not what you hate.
That's what it is. Promote what's great, not what you hate. And when I started thinking about this podcast, that kept coming up. I'm like, I've had podcasts where people sit around and complain about stuff or bitch about things or this is but I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to fucking shine light on things that I fucking love. And if no one else likes it, I don't care. But these are the things that matter to me and that make life more interesting. So when I saw your Day on the Green thing, I was like, why not have Dean on? Because this is sort of where I got the idea. So thank you.
There was two things that really stuck with me. One was promote what's great, not what you hate. And that came from me being stupid and just shitting on Justin Bieber as easy target hacky jokes, like it's shooting fish in a barrel. I'm not supposed to like Justin Bieber.
He's not for you. He's not making music for the 50 plus crowd.
Right. So someone, as I was, and then later he ended up at one of my shows and came backstage and said, God, I love that joke. He was so
nice.
Yeah. Well, he was really cool. Also, he was like, I love that nuts to butts big. This is way back then,
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man, So that was one of them I learned. And then the other one, Sarah Silverman, hit me really hard. And it goes to what we were talking about in the middle of the show. But it was stop bitching and be undeniable. And that one fucking knocked me right in the gut also. Of like, that is so true.
And and what does it matter to somebody if somebody else is making music they don't like? Like I heard a story about Lemmy being at the Rainbow and somebody coming up to him and in an attempt to start a conversation with probably the greatest fucking rock and roll frontman, gritty motherfucker, whiskey drinking cig smoker, he's like, starts shitting on ABBA.
Yeah.
And Lemmy's like, how many fucking #1 records have you put out, guy?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if you don't like ABBA, figure out something else to listen to. But why walk around shitting on ABBA? What is that?
Yeah, it's funny as like a joke punchline of it, but then after a while, when I was starting comedy and I was in that room of like, here comes the Nickelback punchline, here comes the Nickelback punchline. Here, after a while, you're like, yeah, and then you start learning like, I don't want to be that guy. Let's get some original shit going here.
Yeah. I mean, you'd rather have people walking away from your shows thinking about what you said being funny rather than going, I don't like that band either.
I mean, I'll shit on stuff, but it's not, it's more like, gas station prices, taxes, that kind of shit.
This is an old bit of yours, but I still think it's funny because whenever I see amusement parks or anything, but you were like, you said, I don't care. I don't give a shit about same-sex couples. We need to worry about same-clothes couples.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, dude, that is legit. When I go to Great America or Six Flags, I'm like, what are these fucking morons dressed alike?
Yeah, it's so bad. I love that bit. I love that bit, because there's always in the crowd, people are like, fuck, I told you. we look gay.
When you say something and you can see somebody nudging their partner, like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because I say, I don't care about same-sex couples. I can't stand same-clothes couples. That's gay. There's nothing gayer than two people wearing the same fucking thing at Disneyland. Stop doing that. There's kids at the Disneyland. They're gonna think that's okay.
How do I explain that to my kids? Oh, man. Well, thank you, Dean. Again, thank you. Check out his podcast, Let There Be Talk, and the Grail, and keep your eyes out for whenever he's going to be in your neighborhood, because my guess is when we're all said and done with this pandemic, you're going to be back on the road pretty quick.
Yep. Yeah, I've been out. I was out in December with Burr. We did 16 dates. That was pretty wild in Texas. Pretty interesting. It was cool. It was outdoors. Everybody was pretty cautious about what was going on, and we were getting tested, and out rocking it, and you could tell people need to laugh right now.
Dude, now more than ever, I need live music so fucking bad. I can't even see, and just to be in a setting where I can stand in the back of a club and just fucking, be a human, feel like a human being, I think, is I'm looking forward.
Absolutely. I miss you, dude. I haven't seen you in a year.
Yeah, it's fuck, no shit, right?
Yep.
But soon, man, soon. And thank you so much for doing this, dude. This was a really fun talk, and I'll keep you in mind if we talk about music again.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
See you, man.
Later.
Later.